Hello, hello, hello. This is Denise. Continuing on uh, in my ministry. I call it my ministry because God put on my mind to share what went through as a child, all the way up into I think I was almost 13, from let's say 8 years old to 13, of being sexually, mentally, physically, emotionally abused as a child. For those of you that don't know, my mom died when I was 8 years old. I was sent to go live with my auntie who had 6 children of her own. And my mom, last 4 children was minors, which was uh, myself and my 2 sisters and brothers. We were minors. So we went to go live with her and her family, and that's when the, the nightmare began. Okay, I received a couple of DMs, and it's hard for me to address this. I don't come on here every day because I have to pray about it before I come on, you guys. Honestly, I'm 64 years old, and I still have to pray about it. But God put on my mind, as you know, I say that I started this 15 years ago, and I posted probably about 6, 7 videos back then. Go back and look at them. I did a lot of fun because I love going. I love the summertime. That's my favorite time of the year. So I love being outside. Not outside to bounce my butt around, but I love to go to outdoor concerts, anything outside. Uh, walking, picnics, stuff like that. I don't. I do like the wilderness, but I don't like snakes, so you won't catch me up in the mountains. But anyway, I started this ministry 15 years ago, and I was afraid to continue it on. I was afraid because I didn't want my family to see it. I didn't want the family of the perpetrators that was victimizing myself and my siblings, as well as their own siblings. I didn't want them to see it because I didn't want the feedback. I didn't want to have to argue, yell, scream, cuss, because back in the day, a sailor ain't had nothing on my tongue. I can cuss you out standing there looking at you straight, and then say thank you Jesus afterwards. Yeah. But anyway, so I was afraid. So it took me 15 years to finally come back on YouTube and share my stories. And the reason why I share this story and hope that the young people or even adults that's going through this right now can find a way out, because there's so many, with the Epstein files going on right now and all those victims coming out from years ago now telling their stories, and a lot of people are not believing their story. Like I said, I wasn't there, but just listening to some of the people, what they said, I believe them, because I was a victim. And I'm no longer a victim, but I'm going to tell my story and hope that those who are out here hurting these children and adults, you have, and there's more than one way of hurting children and adults. You have a lot of these people out here making young women prostitute themselves, and they don't care because their self-esteem is so low. But anyway, I received a couple of DMs, and I got one from one girl said, I remember you 15 years ago. And over the years, I received a lot of DM people asking me to come back, but I did not go on YouTube. I would see them, but I would not respond. As I said, I was afraid. I really was. But anyway, I'm just going to be bold and brazen. And if people see me on YouTube, and if they don't like it, oh well. I have a sword, which is my Bible. So I come at them with the word. So I come at them, my phone is ringing, don't want to answer. But anyway, I come at them with the word. But how do you tell anyone that you're being victimized, especially if you're living in a house with the person that is causing you harm? It's not easy. My siblings and I, we tried. And keep in mind, this was 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. Back then, there was no YouTube, no social media, no talk shows. What did we have? All we can do is just pull the teacher to the side and tell the teacher they wasn't going to say nothing. I told my teacher more than one time. They just looked at me. And I still remember those teachers' names. And they just looked at me and did absolutely nothing. I don't know. Maybe they didn't understand back then. Maybe they were fearful of losing their jobs or what have you. Because as a kid, like I say, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and a half, what do I know? There was no resources available. So I understand that there's a lot of children living in these nightmares. And no one is doing anything about it. And I truly believe that the adults that are not victimizing them, they know about it. Because I'm going to tell you guys some stories, and I'm not going to be afraid, and I'm not going to hold back. I discussed with a couple of people, and they said it was all right if I share it, as long as I don't mention their names. But when they hear the story, they'll know who I'm talking about. I'm pretty certain. But anyway, so nowadays, things is a lot better. But because of what's going on with, quote, unquote, the president, now you know, these victims, grown women nowadays, are speaking out about how they was victimized. And nothing is being done about it. Our Congress, our senators, and even our so-called Supreme Court, which is the highest court you can go to, is not allowing and not telling these people to release these files and let us know who the pedophiles are. It's so unfair. I said it, it's unfair. You victimize these children, but you want to lead a country. And no one's caring about it. Oh, they didn't do that. Oh, they didn't do this. Oh, they didn't do that. And then later on, years later, they'll write a book about it. Oh, I didn't want to say nothing. Because everybody's fearful of losing a little bit of nuggets they got. You know, if they got a couple of dollars in their bank, they're not going to say nothing. Because money is the root of all evil. And you're going to hold on to that. You don't want your life turned upside down by being the people that snitch. I'm not going to be no snitch. I'm not snitching. I'm not saying nothing. I'm going to just go along with it. That's what folks say. I'm going to go along with it. It ain't me. It ain't my family. So what do I care? Ooh, I can't see with these glasses on. What do I care? I don't care about what's going on. But anyway, nowadays, if you're being victimized, tell your teacher if you're still in school, especially the elementary age students, and even if you're in high school, college. Tell the instructor, the professors. Tell the police. But I know, of course, a lot won't, because if you live in that house and that's all you've been knowing for all your life, you think about it. Well, if I snitch on my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my uncle, granddaddy, where would I go? How would I live? They're going to remove me out of the house. They're going to tear up my family. I don't want my family to be torn apart. So therefore, you continue to let them do it. Because I did not like it. I was a kid back then. I did not like it. I knew something was wrong. I really did. I knew something was wrong. Why were you not pulling the other kids in? Why were you? But I later found out they were. But at that time, I didn't know. I thought that I was the only one being victimized. But I'm being laid to lay on my stomach while you play with my flat chest, while you rub your hands across my private part, while you pull your penis out and grind on me. Thank God I was too young to be penetrated. Because I do have cousins that have babies by cousins. Let me just say that. I do have them that have babies by cousins. Yeah, it happened. But I thank God that I wasn't penetrated. Because that would have been horrible. I was an early menstrual starter. So I started my menstrual at 9 years old. Can you even imagine that? I didn't even know what a menstrual was. I had no knowledge of none of that. Trust when I tell you, I had no knowledge of it. But I was being victimized. So I was afraid. I was like, my sister, brother and I was taken to one state. My father lived in another state. we didn't know how far the states was apart from one another. I remember one night, my brother knew something was going on. Well, I won't tell that story yet because that'll have you in tears. But we decided, and that's probably why I like corn to this day. My oldest sister and my brother woke us up in the middle of the night. We grabbed 2 cans of corn in a spoon. That's how young we were. And we decided to walk to California in the middle of the night. So we left out of the house and we began walking. We thought we could walk to California. We was in Arizona. We didn't know. So we started walking. We just took off down the street. A police put up beside us. And I couldn't tell you what time it was, but I know everybody in the house was asleep. Police put up beside us and asked my brother, I remember him talking, where were we going? And we were the older ones who said, we're going to California. He said, walking, I remember. He said, yeah, we're walking to California. So they gathered up in the police car and took us to the police station. There, we told why we was leaving and why we was going to California, back to, trying to go to California at 9, 10, 11, and 13 years old. Well, no, let me take that lie back. 6, 9, 12, and 13. Around that age. They called my aunt. She came to the police station, her and her husband, picked us up in the wee hours of the morning and took us back to her home. And you know what we got? We got our ass beat. When I tell you what little hair I had on my head was being snatched and pulled and popped and beat and stomped, yeah, we got our ass beat. So we knew we couldn't do that no more. We was also threatened and told, if you ever tell anyone, we would always hear that. If you ever tell anyone, I will beat you to the death. Well, we already knew you were capable of beating butts. We already knew that the teachers wasn't doing nothing. We already knew that the police wasn't doing nothing. We didn't have our dad's phone number. The only person that I remembered phone number as a little girl was my niece's house, where my brother, I had a lot of brothers and sisters, but they was older, never had to go anywhere when my mother passed away because they were already grown and had their own families, from Texas to Oklahoma to California, all down through the South, Louisiana. So I never knew a lot of my older brothers because I wasn't, my mom and dad had 3 sets of 6 children. They had 6, waited a little while, had 6 more, waited a little while, and had us last 6. So I have nieces and nephews currently older than I am. My mom was having us when her older children were still, she was still having children when her oldest children were having children. So I had never met but 2 sisters and brothers from the second set. And one of my brothers from the second set lived in California, where we were living, because we were living in California. We were brought back to Arizona. Anyway, so we was brought back to Arizona. So I knew his daughter's phone number, to their house. So she and I, which is my niece, and currently to this day, she lives about 20 miles from me, and we are thick as thieves. We share everything. We are the same age. I'm 2 months older than her. And she and I, we share all kind of secrets. We are so close. We're closer than I am to my own sisters and brothers. And I would call her. She didn't know what abuse is. She didn't know. I say he would touch me. He would rub my little flat chest. He would rub my cuckoo. That's what we called it. I know y'all call it something else nowadays, but all I knew to call it was a cuckoo. He rubbed my cuckoo. He put white stuff on my stomach. It came out of his pee-pee. We didn't know what that was. She didn't know how to approach her dad, my brother, and tell her what's going on. It wasn't until I think 4 years had passed by, and she ended up telling her mom, because I wasn't allowed to use the phone at home. You know, we had the big black phones. Hello, you know, the big ones you put in your ear. We had those big old phones, and I would sneak to call her. You know, phone booths cost, I think at that time it was a nickel or a dime. And so every now and then, if I came up with a nickel, we sell bottles. My brother said, we were can and bottle hustlers back there. We would, I think a bottle, and it's so crazy because back then it was bottles, cans were worth a nickel and bottles worth a dime. And here we are in 2025 and cans are worth a nickel and bottles worth a dime still to this day. But anyway, we used to get cans, find cans, run out, find cans, get our little nickels, and that's how I would make phone calls to my niece privately. And you know, you just drop it in the phone booth. I know some of y'all probably don't even know what the phone booths are. But we drop it. I drop a couple of dimes in the phone booth. The person would say, "Your 3 minutes is up." You drop another nickel, a dime in there, and I would. It was always limited because I never had a lot of money to use a phone booth. But this particular time, I think at this time I probably was 12, well into my menstrual cycle. Back then, you know, they used to teach us in home economic classes. They just teach us about the organs, our sex organs and things like that, how babies and stuff. But of course, we were taught that there was no visual. They wasn't showing films and all that stuff. But they basically, class would tell you and teach you how to sew and cook and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, when we got 12, because like I say, she and I are only 2 months apart from each other, I called her and I told her, I felt like killing myself. I don't want to be here no more. My sister and brother don't want to be here no more. Help us. Tell your dad. It's time to tell your dad. It's time to tell your mom. Well, it was getting close to summer time. I was going into the 7th grade. I believe that was the 7th grade. Well, my brother, he was so defiant because, yes, he was being abused as well. My aunt didn't want him at the house no more because he was very defiant. He was taking them ass whippings. He was taking them pump, busted lips. He was taking them hits. He was taking it all. Finally, my aunt called my dad and said, I'm going to take, you can come get him, but you can't get the rest of them. Well, if you guys wondering why my dad couldn't get us, is because when my mom died, keep in mind, I told y'all what year, she went to court, her and her husband, and said, I have my sister's kids. They don't have a father. He's somewhere drunk, an alcoholic in California. And they allowed her to adopt us. So I remember getting up on the stand as a little girl. And repeat after me, she said, your mama is dead. You don't know who your daddy is. Yeah. We had to say that on the stand in the court. I'd never forget it. It was a lie, but I never forgot it. But anyway, so that's how she got custody of us. And we had to start calling her and her husband mom and dad. Go figure. Ooh, that was hard. But if we didn't, but anyway, so she decided, I didn't know how close California was to Arizona back then. I didn't even know what direction. Anyway, she decided to meet them halfway in the desert. And she exchanged my brother. Oh boy. When my brother got back to California, my brother let it all hang out. He let it all hang out. My father, one of my uncles, and my brother got in his Brougham. My brother always had these big Cadillac Brougham, you know. They drove to California. They came to get us. It was a big issue. I remember my aunt coming out with paperwork. They didn't even know she had. Police was called, and we weren't allowed to go. Yeah, we got our ass whooped. We got our ass whooped. We did. But it didn't stop there. My father, unbeknownst to us, as I say, I didn't know the court systems back then. They worked between my brother, his wife, and my father. They worked. A year later, I was going into the 8th grade. And I remember the school wasn't too far from the house. You know, it had dirt roads. Arizona back then was like the country. It was just, oh my God, it was country. Highways, byways, dirt roads, no grass, and no yards. But anyway, I remember I was heading home. And the school, as you turn the corner, we on the same street where my aunt lived, about 2 blocks down. And I remember seeing this big black Brougham. I thought it was a Cadillac because somebody said it was a Cadillac, but it was a Brougham in the yard. And I took off running as fast as I could because I knew my father was there. Don't know what reason, but I knew I was going to be safe that particular day. So I took off running. And before I can get in the house, my brother stopped me. He said, get in the car. Now keep in mind, my sister, both of my sisters was already in the car. I was the last to get home, get in the car. They didn't even allow me to go in the house. Get in the car. Now they had a stack of papers. They had a stack of papers. And that stack of papers said, reverse all that stuff that you lied and did all these years to get this man his children. Big argument outside. The motor was running. I remember the air conditioner was on. The motor was running. My brother and my daddy said, don't get out that car. But they did have the window ajar, so I can hear. Couldn't make out everything they were saying. But all I knew is my daddy said, don't open that car, though. Don't get out that car, though. My cousin came up the side and said, my mama said, if you don't get out that car, you're going to get your ass whipped. I said, how am I going to get out this car? I can't get out this car. Because if I'm going to get my ass whooped, I will be a fool to get out this car. So I'm going to stay in. So whatever happened, if I stay in, I'm safe. If I get out, I'm going to get my ass whipped. So why would I get out? So anyway, stayed in the car. They discussed. It was heated. I remember that big argument. Heated. And within probably about 35, 40 minutes, we was headed to California. That's how I got back to California. That's how I got to California, got back home to California. But to answer your question about who do you tell, especially if your abusers are your parents or you live in a home with your abusers, nowadays it's much easier. Yeah, there are going to be a little consequences because you will be removed from the household. But you got to weigh, is it worth being removed and being in foster care? Or is it worth staying there? So you got to ask yourself, because if you stay there, you already know the consequences of what you're going through. So if you remove, there's a chance that you might get into a better environment. I didn't know any of those. If I knew anything about foster care and anything like that, I would have took that option. But that wasn't available for me. And yes, the abusers don't want you to leave. And on top of that, they were receiving my mom's Social Security. I didn't know anything about Social Security. I found out probably about 2 weeks before my dad came out here. Because we was never allowed to touch the mailbox, get anything out the mailbox. Oh, broken down, ragged, gray, rusted mailbox. But one day I came home from school, and the mail person happened to see me and handed me the mail. And when they handed me the mail, I looked at the 4 letters. It was 4 pieces of mail. One had my name, and it had my aunt's name. One had my brother's name, my aunt's name, my 2 sisters' name, and my aunt's name. My aunt's name on it. Her daughter ran out the house, snatched it from me. You gotta get a weapon. You're never supposed to be reading that. Didn't know what it was. Later found out what it was. She had been getting money for us. That's why she wanted us. It wasn't because she loved her nieces and nephews. Because Lord have mercy, as much as she talked about my mama, your mama died. Because she didn't want y'all ugly asses no more. She had to die to get rid of y'all. Oh, yeah. Now I told y'all mental abuse, emotional abuse, all that. I'm going to get into these stories real deep with you guys. Even further. Because I'm going to keep talking about it. Yeah, I will be putting videos. Because I have a cooking show on Facebook. One thing I learned from her, the woman knew how to cook. And I would get popped upside my head, choked, but I had to pay attention to what she was cooking. So I'm a great cook. So I do have a cooking show. I'll tell y'all later on what that is, because I don't tie this YouTube channel with my Facebook channel. They're separate. If you know me on YouTube, you know me on YouTube. If you know me on Facebook, you know me on Facebook. Two different things. Facebook, I talk about happiness. I talk about my grandchildren. I talk about my children. I do a lot of cooking shows. I pray for people. I show you, some of the things that I have overcome. I show you some of my things that I'm into nowadays, Nowadays, like I told you guys, sometimes I have trigger factor, but I don't post that on Facebook. Facebook is all about me outside and cooking and praying for people and positivity. This can be positive, but I talk about abuse. As I stated, I do share the things that I'm into, and I have shared my husband. You'll see him a lot on Facebook more so than here. You see my children on Facebook. I won't dare put them on here, my children on here. But I do have 3 grown, successful children. Thank you, Jesus. And I do have 3 successful grandchildren. Matter of fact, one of my grandchildren is a child actor. Can be seen on TV weekly. Won't mention her name. I won't mention her name. But she's adorable, And then I have a 24-year-old grandbaby. She's in her master's program. She's a director at a major hospital out here in California. And then tomorrow, my middle grandbaby will be 18 years old, straight A student. Never got anything less than an A- in her and she wants to be wildlife veterinarian. So, and then of course you guys know my husband and I own a trucking company. Thank you, God. And I'm retired right now. I'm retired. I retired 2 years ago, 2021. So I'm retired, but I do more work now than I did when I was working. But anyway, I'm gonna keep talking about it. You guys can share this video. Don't share it to Facebook, but you can share this video with others. And if you know someone that's going through this, have them take a look, at this video, because they're not alone. We're going to put these pedophiles where they need to be. And I did use the food. I know they're going petty and all. I ain't got no soft word for these bastards. I don't. No soft word for y'all at all. You out here abusing children, taking their innocence from them. And a lot of that stopped because, as I stated, I'm going to tell you about my sister that I lost. I lost my brother, too. And it's because they could not deal with the demons. So the repercussions is heavy. I had ballooned up to 224 pounds because I wouldn't eat food no more. My favorite thing to eat was Hershey Went Almond, a Dr. Pepper. I would drink almost a 6-pack of soda a day. Eat 2. I would go to the stores before they had the Costco's and the Sam Clubs, and buy, I think it was like 8 packs of Hershey Went Almond. And I was just working, going to work, and blooming up. Unhealthy, high blood pressure, all that. Now to this day, it took me a long time to get the weight that I am now. I'm down to 119 pounds, but I bloomed up over 224 pounds and had all borderline diabetes. I developed an addiction, and my addiction was I was a shopaholic. Let me explain something to y'all. Don't ever say you was a shopaholic, because a shopaholic is an addiction. It's not you just going through the store and buying stuff off of Facebook. I spent $300,000 in 1 year. I would walk into stores and buy something and then hand it off to somebody. Get up in the middle of the night. Thank God for the 24 hours AM and PMs. Get up in the middle of the night, hyperventilating, just like a hype. Go in the store, buy bubble gum. As long as I bought it, and hand it to somebody. At that particular time, my husband and I had the money to do that. We had the money to do that. Drove us to the poorhouse. Then I had to get help. But I'll talk about that as well. You know, as I stated, my sister, alcoholism, drugs, all of us ended up with something. And they all had jobs and worked, had children. But when you're an addict, it's hard to rear your children. My kids, I thank God they have jobs that can suffice, because they love shopping too. But they can afford it. Like I say, I'm not going to boast and brag, but they're all professionals. Financially, they're doing better than me. So I thank God. And we're all Christians. We are Christians. We put God above everything. And without that, I'm going to tell you how I walked into church and dropped on my knees, crying for help. And I think I was in my early 20s. Yeah. Save the babies. Help the babies. If you, again, are going through this currently, get some help. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. Women, don't bring these men in your home. I cannot say that enough. Stop bringing these men in your home, laying up with them, with your children in there. It don't matter if they boys or girls, 15, 16. Don't do it. Don't do it. Go over his house. Get a hotel. Keep that man off around your children. Oh, you know something. I've been dating him, but he ain't like that. Might not be. But you don't want to risk it and find out, as the kids say, F around and find out the hard way. Protect your children. But with that said, you guys, I'm going to end this right here. I'll be back. I try to post at least twice a week, because I do more posting on Facebook. But I'll try to post here twice a week. But I'm going to keep screaming out and talking about these petties out here. And as you can see, if they say that the president can be a petty, I don't know that. All I hear is what's on the news. All I hear is people saying release the Epstein files. You know, it's just an assumption. Don't come at me. It's all over the news. But if he can be one, who to stop the janitor? Who's to stop the teacher, the doctor? They too may have been abused. They too may be lashing out. Or they may just be that type of person. So I'm going to end this here, you guys. And I'll get back with you guys a little later. You guys have a blessed day. Bye.